Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the One More Jump podcast by Rise Pole Vault. Today's episode is with Julia Fixsen, the senior at Virginia Tech, national champion last year, and Bridget Williams, the most recent Team USA Pan American Games champion. And this episode was outstanding. I know I say that a lot, but you never know whenever you get guests how they're going to kind of relate to the podcast and how they're going to interview and talk. And these two young ladies did an incredible job. They were amazing, just packed full of incredible just ideas and motivation. And it was so much fun to have them on the podcast. And I say it in this episode, but man, hearing the stories behind these athletes is extremely powerful because I think sometimes we think to ourselves that they just skate their way all the way to national championships and Pan American glory. But man, the hardships that these ladies have faced and they've overcome is absolutely incredible. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode with Julia Fixsen and Bridget Williams. How are
Right.
you guys doing? How's your training and everything going?
It's
Good.
going.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. We're in full swing. I think the group is looking really good this year. We've got a good vibe going for us. So I think, yeah, we're excited for the season to start off.
Yeah, and on the Virginia Tech side, we have 5 newcomers to the team, and so we're just building. I mean, we had a phenomenal year last year
Right.
with Hannah on the team, Journey Gurley. Even after losing Rachel, because she's now out of college, we've just been growing and growing, and that's kind of thanks to Rachel and Deacon Voles. They've kind of brought in, and of course Bob. Bob's
Yeah,
kind
for
of
sure.
the face of it all. But
Yeah, I mean, Virginia Tech has just been, I was thinking about it this morning and I was just like, that school has really been insane in the pole vault. You know,
Mhm.
like, and like, what about this? Are you guys both from Virginia?
No.
no.
Oh, okay. All right. Where are you guys from? Let's do that. Let's just start fresh because I know a lot about, not a lot, but like I know that you guys are really incredible pole vaulters and NCAA champion and world team member last year, but I don't know much about your like background. So let's start, Julia, just give us a quick synopsis of kind of like your background, where you're from, and your pole vaulting history, I guess.
Okay. Just a little story of like where I came from and how I started vaulting.
Yeah. A little something for the
Okay,
people.
so I'm from Minnesota and grew up there, stayed there up until college. I
What
actually
part? What part?
I was raised right outside of Minneapolis.
Okay.
So I was close to the city.
My brother lives in Hugo.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really know where that is. I'm terrible with directions.
I'm not sure either.
I did not expect Minnesota. That
Yeah.
threw me for a loop, actually.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. Keep
So I'm
going.
from
Sorry.
Yeah, and then I was a gymnast for a long time, and that was kind of my thing. That was really the only thing that I did. You know, I dabbled with soccer and like other sports, but gymnastics was something that really stuck for me. And then once I got to be a little bit too tall and had a lot of injuries, gymnastics was done and I had to find a new sport. And I did not want to pole vault. That was the one thing I knew I did not want to do.
Wow.
Surprisingly,
Why?
because I didn't want to go from one dangerous sport to another. I was just like, I got so many injuries from gymnastics. Like, why would I go to another event or another thing that I could land on my head again? Like, that sounds like the worst thing possible. But
Right.
yeah, so I was actually really stubborn. Like, my parents and my family, they were all like, Julia, you gotta do track. Like, you're athletic, you gotta do it. And I was like the most stubborn cat. Like, I just did not want to do it at all. But what got me to do it actually was my friend, who was my neighbor at the time. She did gymnastics with me and she was joining track. And she was like, on our first day, she told me, let's do pole vault. Like, I don't care what you think, let's do pole vault. And I was like, fine, I'll do one day. Like, I'll just give it one day.
What
And
year was this? Was this your freshman year
this
or
was my 8th grade year.
8th grade year? Okay, gotcha.
And so, yeah, I was like 14 or something.
Yeah.
And day one, I fell in love. And it's really been ever since then that I can't stop.
That's awesome.
It's
Yeah.
addicting.
It is addicting.
Yeah, like I tell the kids that we work with all the time is like they'll like go through like really it's difficult at the beginning, you know, but once you start to get that pole to flex a little bit and then you get like upside down for your first time, like you're upside down on a flexed pole the proper way that you should do it. I always tell the kids they're like so excited and I'm just like that was a really big moment for you. It was a really, really exciting moment, but now you're fully addicted now.
Yeah.
And it's about to get a lot more fun and a lot more frustrating at the same time.
Yeah,
You
sure.
know?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
I think for a lot of former gymnasts, it feels like home. Like that's for me, it felt like home because a lot of the drills that we did day one, like I already knew how to do. Like I already knew how to like hang on a rope and swing on it, or like I've already done that before. And so it just felt like home for me.
Right, for sure. So Bridget, what about you?
So I grew up in Pennsylvania, and started jumping in the 6th grade, I believe, 6th or 7th grade in middle school. And similar to Julia, I was a gymnast, and there were a few girls ahead of me in school that were also gymnasts, who then took up pole vaulting and were having some success in it. And so I just kind of followed in their footsteps, and it's been, a slow burn ever since,
Right.
slowly progressing. And so that's how I got into it too, and went to UVA and then got married in 2020. And now I'm here with Bob training in Blacksburg. So
That's awesome. So
yeah.
did you guys like how was your high school like career? Did you guys have a lot of success in high school? Did you were just kind of like average or what was it like?
Yeah, for me, I think it was more so average. Like I only jumped maybe 9 feet in the 8th grade, and then I graduated high school only having jumped 12.6 one time at the state meet, very last meet of the season.
Wow.
So yeah, I feel like for me, like I never jumped well at nationals, in high school, and it was just like a slow, like I said, a slow burn. Just I think for me, I'm learning now under Bob, how to be more of a technician and make my jump pretty. I've told him this year, I was like, one of my goals is like, I want to have a more cosmetic jump, because it's, I think my whole career, I've just been really, fast and strong and just kind of muscled it and wasn't afraid to get on a big stick. And that has brought me a lot of success. But as we've gotten more into this post-collegiate, journey, yeah, the technique is mattering a lot more.
I feel like you've always
Yeah.
though. You think your jump isn't pretty, but I think it is. You are strong and powerful, but you have a nice jump.
Thanks.
You're being hard on yourself. It's
Say that.
style.
Yeah.
It's your
Yeah.
style. It's your style.
Style, yeah. But I would like, I think, yeah, it's just I don't want to always be raw. I want it to be a little bit polished.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, I understand that. I had this thing where whenever I would rock back, like I would always hang my right leg way back behind like my right hand.
Yeah.
And it drove me so crazy. It was my body's natural way of like counterbalancing myself up top. And it would drive me crazy. And then one year I just because I kept constantly like, Dad, we got to fix that. My dad was my coach. And I was like, Dad, we got to fix this. We got to fix this. And one year I just was like, dude, I'm so sick and tired of like not believing in my jump. I was like, I'm just gonna believe in my jump and just send it, like get as strong and as fast as I can and send it on every pole that I have. And ironically, I didn't think about it one time that year, and I didn't split my legs that year.
Yeah. So, yeah.
It was so crazy. It's hard. It's really hard. I definitely am envious of like people who have like pretty jumps though. Like really nice jumps.
It's satisfying to watch.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah. But there is something to be said about just like rough, tough people who just blast poles.
Getting into it.
There's something to be said about that too, And Bridget, did I miss where you were from?
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I grew up right outside of Pittsburgh area. Went to high school at right up about 45
So
minutes.
how did you guys both probably maybe Julia a little bit more than you, Bridget. I'm trying to think of the geography here. How did you deal with outdoor seasons in I don't talk to a lot of people that are like in the northern part of the United States about like the outdoor season in high school because that's a super difficult thing. Did you
Oh yeah.
guys compete well outside in high school?
Yeah, I mean, for me, some of the first meets I would have snow on the track and you
Yeah.
have to shovel it off.
Mhm.
I mean,
Right.
so the first meets, and we in Minnesota, we don't have
Mhm.
indoor. We don't have an indoor high school season. I
Right.
know Wisconsin does, and I don't think Iowa even has pole vault. I think they don't.
No, they don't. They don't. They canceled the pole vault in Iowa whenever I was I think a freshman in high school, and they
Yeah.
were going to axe the pole vault. This is actually kind of a cool story. They were going to axe the pole vault in Illinois.
Mhm.
Unfortunately there were like some fatalities, like kind of a few like kind of clumped together.
Yeah.
And they were going to axe it in Illinois, and my dad ended up talking with a lawyer and other people kind of
Yeah.
banded together. And it was just I was a freshman in high school in 2002, so they had just started like the women's pole vault in the Olympics in 2000. And so there was this fire lit for women to pole vault. And everyone was like, dude, like this is awesome. Now like these ex gymnasts can like actually do another thing and they can actually excel at this next thing if they, get out of gymnastics. And so we had a bunch of people interested in pole vaulting, and the women in Illinois are what saved the pole vault in Illinois. They like
That's so cool.
banded together and just were like, no, you just gave us this. This is
Yeah.
not, you're not taking this away.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy, but they still don't have it in high school in Iowa. But
Yeah.
do they have indoor? They have an indoor season in Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah, we had an indoor season, but we were just talking about this yesterday. We would travel, like where I grew up, there wasn't a lot of indoor facilities, so we would travel a lot to Ohio or other parts of the state in Pennsylvania where there were either small colleges or just standalone facilities like Spire, which was that's in Ohio, but
Yeah.
a standalone facility like that to compete. But in
Mhm.
terms of practice, yeah, we were jumping. We were lucky though, I guess I will say. We had an auxiliary gym in the high school that we would pull out the pole vault pits and assemble them together, and roll out the black
Mhm.
runway
Oh
um,
yeah.
and jump inside that way. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think growing up in the north, like with cold and elements and stuff, kind of makes you gritty, right?
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
you're running
Does.
outside in the cold. You gotta really. It makes you really want it.
Yeah,
You
and
know.
then when it's nice out, like for outdoor season,
Hmm.
you really appreciate the warm weather. And I always
Oh
did
yeah.
better when it was warm because
Yeah.
I was like, thank God it's actually warm outside, and I don't have to like constantly be like
Bundles.
trying to stay
Mhm.
bundled or stay warm. So I think you just appreciate the better days, and the good days
100%.
are probably like
50
average days.
degrees. It's
Yeah,
like, oh my gosh, it's 50 degrees today.
Yeah.
I
This
know.
is crazy.
Say, let's go.
I
And then you
know.
go to Texas relays and it's just a piping tailwind and 80
Yeah.
degrees and it's like, oh my gosh. And it's like right at the time in our season cuz we're in like the Chicagoland area, and it's right during the time where it's just like everybody just hates their life. Like it's so cold and it's not snowing, but it's just cold rain and sleet.
Mm.
And they're like, all right, guys, we got an outdoor meet in 2 weeks. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay. That's why like Luke, my brother Luke, I trained my brother Luke, and I told him about 2 years ago. So whenever I took over his training, he had like a kind of a resurgence in the event and started to just kind of get better over these last couple years. And one of the big things that we changed was I said, dude, you're not competing up here in the spring. Like I don't even think you're gonna compete around here at all. And so he flies to every single one of his meets now.
Mm.
Like
Yeah.
I'm like, you're going to Olympic Training Center, you're going to Texas, you're going to Arizona, you're going to these places that we know there's a 80 maybe not 80, like 75% chance that you're going to get pretty decent weather.
Yeah.
And as like a post-collegiate athlete outdoors, it's really difficult because first of all, the funding of that is really tough. I mean, I asked him the other day, I was like, so how much like is a meet, like total, like rental car, flight, hotel, like all those things. Like if you fly out to Chula Vista for just a couple days and just jump, he was like, dude, it's like getting now to where it's like almost 2 G's,
Yeah.
like almost 2 G's to go and jump in a track meet.
Yeah.
And have some decent weather.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, you have
insane.
more experience with that because I've been on the college circuit, you know, and everything's kind of paid for us. So I
Yeah.
don't have to worry about that. But that's the one thing that, because I want to go pro, that's like my dream and my goal. But that's kind of the anxiety, or it's just that fear of, you know, it's going to cost money. Like, and I don't know if I'm going to have that money, you know?
Yeah.
But you have experience with that because you've, the past couple of years, have been traveling.
Yeah.
You're on your own, you know?
Yeah, you just had to be, you know, choosy. I mean, at the beginning, especially like my first year out of college, I competed in an indoor season under my college coach at UVA, and then COVID hit and came to Blacksburg later that fall in 2020. And so the 2021 season was my first year competing a full year indoor outdoor season with Bob, and I didn't have any funding, like zero. And granted, I wasn't at the point yet in my career where I was getting invited to several meets, but I think we traveled, you know, obviously it was an Olympic trial year, and thankfully, you know, as a volunteer assistant coach under Virginia Tech, like they were able to help support me financially through the Olympic trials. But I think we went to Drake Relays, and that was the only meet I traveled to. And I was like, oh gosh, you know, like I need to either step it up. We need to figure out how am I gonna, you know, be able to afford this in future years, you know, and every year since has gotten better, and more opportunities have, you know, have come about. And you know, USATF with their tier funding, and they have other funding opportunities. Those are definitely helpful, but it's, you know, if you don't have a shoe contract or something like that, that's giving you, or if you don't work a full-time job or whatever, if you don't have another income source, you know, those funding opportunities that USATF provides and the foundation provides are vital.
How do you get those?
Yeah, they're vital.
How do you get the tier funding?
Tier funding is based on your world ranking. So
which that's complicated in itself, world ranking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but that's the thing that like brings up like such a great point, because so Luke made the world team. Luke did not make the standard, but made the world team. So like that perfectly proves like another benefit to, you know, trying to scrounge together money to be able to travel to good meets. The only reason he made that team was because, well, he competed that day and got second, number one. But then number two is he jumped well in a couple like B ranked meets. And if you do, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, like whenever I was I was in the stands coaching him, and I was like, oh man, this stinks. Like dude got second, but you know, it didn't make standard. And then Jeff Hartwig comes up and was like, hey man, he should be good. And I'm like, how? You know, and he was like, well, you know, his world ranking is gonna be sufficient to get him through. I was like, dude, that's crazy. So then that's even more pressure for people who want to compete after school, because it's like, all right, well, if you're in the US, you don't have very many options for ranked meets.
And even in college too, like I think, what are most college meets, like F rated?
Yeah, they're like F ranks. I think isn't the NCAA meet like ranked like an F or something like that?
It's like a C or B.
Is it a C?
Yeah, it's higher. I don't know exactly
I
what
swear I thought it was an F like the first year or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
So even if you're, you know, if you jump high, you place well, and you're jumping at the NCAAs, you only get so many points. So for college kids, like world ranking isn't really, you're not going to get many points there, but you have to jump high. You know,
yeah, it's definitely, there's a strategy to it for sure.
Right.
to chase the points,
Yeah.
you know?
And I think like
Yeah.
what Texas Relays is a little bit better than like a home meet or something.
No idea.
Well,
Maybe
that's
I think Drake is good. So there's like different I think there's like just different things that you have to do as a promoter to have like a good ranking. Like it's got to be like a certain amount of money has to be allocated to the event. And then I'm probably messing all of this up. So if anybody's
Probably
listening to
so.
this,
It's
don't
starting to do it.
here.
don't listen to me. Do your research. But I think it's like a certain amount of funding has to be going to that event, and then there has to be a certain number of countries represented
Yeah.
at that meet. You know?
I think prize money too is a player, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. So money, like prize money,
Oh, right,
allocated
right.
to that event, or
Right.
maybe I think it's to that specific event and not just to the entire meet. But
Right.
gosh, man, talk about a really difficult task if you're a meat promoter in the United States.
Mhm.
I yeah, it's really, really crazy. But
Yeah.
so what brought you guys to Virginia Tech? Like what, like was it just like this was for sure like where, so Bridget, you went to, what was
UVA.
your, you went to UVA
Mhm.
and then you came over here when?
In 2020, I came in the fall, late fall of 2020. So my husband actually grew up close to Blacksburg, and so this is kind of his like hometown area.
Okay.
So we were both at UVA. He had graduated a year earlier than I did, because I had a red shirt year that I was finishing out. And so when COVID hit, you know, we kind of just made the decision to get married earlier and do the opposite of what everybody else was doing, which was postponing their weddings. We had ours earlier, got married, and then we bought a house in April of 2020, and that was like the jump start for me to come train at Virginia Tech, because that was my best option, really. I remember emailing Bob and I was like, gosh, I'm coming from UVA. Like, I don't even know if he wants a post collegiate group, but like, this is my only shot to keep doing this, you know,
Right.
because I mean, never say never, but I really did not want to do the long distance relationship thing. That was like something that was
That's tough, man.
non-negotiable for me.
Yeah.
Um,
You
and
mean like
so,
a long distance, oh, you mean long distance relationship with your husband?
yeah,
Well,
sorry.
either way, it's difficult. Long distance
Yeah,
relationship with your husband or long distance relationship with your coach,
coach.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
which
sure.
are
Yeah,
both really difficult.
yeah. And I didn't want to do either of those things. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so I reached out to Bob shortly after we had gotten married, and you know, we had a few meetings and it was smooth sailing from there. And I'm really glad, because I feel like Virginia Tech, that their whole program, you know, Coach Chinelli has been super grateful. I'm super grateful for him, and he's been super gracious with everything.
Yeah.
You know, he supports the post collegiate group um like better than I've ever seen anywhere. You know, he's just really awesome guy.
Mhm.
Um,
Our
our head coach, yeah, he's the head coach at Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
But and then Bob too, of course. You know,
Yeah.
I feel like the two of them really have taken my career to the next level, just based on, you know, their knowledge and
Oh
willingness
yeah.
to take me in. And you know, I feel like, you know, when I got to college, I remember thinking, oh yeah, I'm learning so much. Like, I'm learning all this stuff about pole vault and stuff. And then I come here and I'm like, wow, I'm still learning like all of this stuff. You know, there's so much to learn, and
Oh, yeah.
there's so much I don't know and don't understand and whatever. And so it's just been, yeah, it's been really great. That's how I ended up here.
You always learn something new from different coaches too.
Yeah,
Having
for
different
sure.
perspectives. I mean, that's what on my side, my story and how I made it to Virginia Tech. I actually went to Georgia my first 2 years. So I
Yeah,
went to,
that was on my thing. You had an interesting trip through college.
yeah. So I went from
Okay.
Minnesota to Georgia, complete opposite. The reason why I ended up going there first was because, well, I made the U20 world team to Finland in 2018. And, you know, the big names like Anna Hall, Kyle Garland, Jasmine Moore, we were all part of the same team, and we had gone to Worlds together, as well as Rachel. But, you know, so I knew about Virginia Tech at the time, but my eyes were kind of on Georgia because I wanted to be a part of an elite group, not just with pole vault. I liked Georgia because of Russ Johnson was the pole vault coach at the time, and
Yeah.
he was really wanting Georgia to become the next pole vault school. And that really, I was really attracted to that because I didn't want to go to a school like Arkansas that already had, you know, a stable program. I kind of wanted to build a program and like, you know, build something from the ground up and be a part of the foundation. That was really attractive to me. And so, plus being a part of a team that has like, you know, Anna Hall and Jasmine Moore, like just to be around an environment of like elite people and not just pole vault.
Right.
So I was there for freshman, sophomore year. It was intense, but I loved it. I mean, I absolutely loved everything. I loved the coach.
Did you have success? I'm not familiar. Did you have like pretty good success your freshman and sophomore year? Or?
I did. You know, actually, my freshman.
She crushed it.
Yeah. No, but hey, I didn't crush it from the beginning. It was rough at the beginning because for every freshman, I mean, I don't care who you are, you're gonna struggle. You're gonna have a hard transition. You know, especially if you're going out of state, that's even more difficult. So it was hard for me to make the adjustment of being on my own and trying to make my own community. And I actually no-hided my very first meet, you know. And I tell this to every freshman that's nervous. I was like, I no-hided my first meet and we were fine. We ended up being okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to be perfect right away. It's about building. It's about, you know, starting, you know, and start building. But then so I was struggling a little bit at the beginning, but I was working really hard and I was really working really closely with Russ Johnson to figure out my vault. And I've always had a pretty solid foundation because my high school coach, Matt Flagel, and his wife, Esther Flagel, were really critical in my development because they loved the vault and supported everything. And they gave me a good foundation, you know?
Yeah. I just met them. I just met them a couple months ago at the Essex dealer summit that we did here.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, I saw them.
Yeah. That's awesome. So why did you, well, I kind of am familiar a little bit with, because didn't the head coach at Georgia leave and then Russ was no longer?
So that was the reason why I ended up transferring. We call it the Great Exodus because once Petros left, I mean, all hell kind of broke loose a little bit because, and it was also when he officially decided to not be part of the team anymore and leave us. That was like during NCAA's, you know, in like, what is that, June or something? And I had no idea. And so that news broke out, but we didn't know if Russ was going to stay or go. It was just kind of dependent on Carol, the coach that came in after, I forget her last name, but she came from USC. Yeah. But, and then I think it was like late June, I was told that Russ was no longer going to be my coach. And I was like, shoot.
Yeah.
What do I do now? Like, you know, I have dreams of being an Olympian, a national champion. Like, I want to do all these things. And if I don't have the coach that I came here for, you know, came here with, like, I don't know, like, I just don't see a future here, even though I absolutely love Georgia. Everything was perfect about it.
Right.
And so I knew I had to go. I knew I couldn't stay there. So.
How many times have you heard that?
Yeah.
How many times do you hear that though? Like somebody goes to a Division I school and then has the coach for like a year, maybe two. And then it's like, it's okay. Did you have any coaching changes, Bridget?
Nope.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I was lucky. Yep. I had Mary Wilson for all 5 years.
That's awesome.
Finish.
Yeah.
But I think that's the good thing about whenever you know, Julia, you went and picked a school like Virginia Tech because Bob has just been there for a minute, you know. Yeah.
I mean, since the beginning. Yeah. He's the only pole vault coach there's been.
And you know what?
That's crazy.
Ross, my coach, when I was looking to transfer and looking for schools, he had said that, you know, Julia, I would trust Bob with my life. You know, if you were to go anywhere, I'd say you go to Virginia Tech because Bob is a solid one. And they're good friends and they were, you know, they had similar techniques and stuff like that in their coaching style. But yeah.
From what I understand, Bob is just a pole vault coach. Is that true?
Yeah.
That's kind of rare too.
And
that he doesn't.
too. That was another reason why I wanted to go there, is because it's so rare to have a pole vault coach that only coaches pole vault.
Right, right. So now is that changing with that new like rule, like those new rules that you
I
have
think
to pay volunteers or something like that?
Yeah, because I think Brooke, I mean, I don't know, Brooke Rasnick, she's now
Yeah.
back in Louisville. I think she's only coaching pole vault now.
Yeah, she is. So I did a podcast with her too, and she was the reason that I found out that Bob was just
Yes.
a coach, because she went on like this huge rant on the podcast about like, well, then I would go to Virginia Tech and Bob would just be coaching the pole vault and I would be running all around the track trying to coach everybody. And she was like, and it would just be nice to be able to focus on one thing. And he's very, very lucky. But I think, now it's different. But prior to that, I'm sure he probably, you kind of just got to prove yourself. And I mean, he's just such like he's so battle tested and just like he's been, so solid. Like you couldn't imagine a head coach going up to him and being like, "Hey, Bob, you're going to be coaching the high jump and the long jump and the triple jump and the pole vault this year." He would probably be like, "Nah, no, I'm not."
And a lot of people don't know this about Bob either, is he was a professor. Like while he was coaching, he was basically volunteering. Like he didn't get paid until I think
Wow.
or 2 years ago.
Yeah,
or
year
something.
before. He just retired
He just
recently from
retired.
his professor job. Yeah.
So I think he deserves.
He's a man of all trades. He knows a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
He's a
Yeah.
smart man.
I would like to have him on sometime. Do you think he
do
has the
I, yeah.
personality? Do you think he has a personality that he would want to
Yes.
do that?
Oh, he's a teacher,
Yeah,
so he
he's-
loves to talk and,
Okay.
well, he loves to talk, but he loves to like,
No,
if
but
you
he's
have
smart.
questions for him, like he would definitely.
Yeah.
Anybody that comes in contact with him will get smarter just by being around him.
That's
I
awesome.
promise that. Yeah. We were joking with him yesterday when we were jumping. We were like, "You gonna come to our podcast tomorrow?"
Yeah.
I think it would be good. I
different
think we'd have a
stuff.
good conversation and
Oh, for sure.
I'm always, all ears trying to learn as much as I can learn too,
Yeah.
So
He's a great one to learn from. Yeah.
I am interested to see like the differences in your training because, obviously Julia, you're a senior this year. You're a senior this year. Okay. So you guys have two kind of different goals almost, and then like two different portions of the season you guys are training for. Like, because Bridget, your season kind of doesn't, it can go out for a long time, well into the summer and even the fall sometimes.
Yeah.
So how is your training set up? Do you guys do similar stuff? Do you train as a group? Do you guys kind of all do the same thing? Is it like personalized at all, or you don't have to give me all the
Yes,
secrets?
no, all
but
of the above. It's just different. We have such a huge group this year, like collegiate and the collegiate.
What's a huge group? What's the total number?
I think it's 15 guys.
Holy 15 vaulters.
Yeah, plus Deacon Rachel and I and Haley Horvath. So that's another 4.
So it's like
19,
roughly 19, 20, something like that.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a good amount. I mean, that's a pole vault team right there, like straight up.
Yeah, we have a huge group. We have a huge group. So
how does this work? Yeah, break it down. I'm very interested in this now. 15 people. How does it work?
Yeah, well, okay, so it's kind of been, we do work out separately up until recently. This past week,
we've linked up a bit, which is nice.
Because
when
it's
school
Christmas break and no one's here, and I think I'm the only vaulter here.
Yeah, I think
you know
you're the only one left here.
So we're training together as of right now, and I kind of want to continue that. But and also I've been dealing with a back injury ever since.
I saw that on Instagram.
Yeah, I mean it's been, and we could talk about that, like because pole vaulters and back injuries, they kind of go together. Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. I do want to talk about that. I want to hear more about like how you're training, like just because I find it interesting, two different like periods in life or in their career, Yeah.
Okay, so for the college side, I mean, we lift 2 to 3 times a week. This year we've been lifting 3 times a week. We run twice a week. We do gymnastics twice a week, and then we vault twice a week. That's kind of the the way that we do it.
With one off day in there.
Usually one off day. So some people take Sundays. I take Sundays off. Most people vault on Sunday. I go to church and I want Sunday to kind of be my off day.
Right.
Other people vault. So, and it's because we have our own indoor track and because Bob is our only coach, there is a lot of wiggle room and we do have a lot of freedom to kind of set our own schedules, especially with classes. I think that is the big thing. And if you're a senior and you have to take certain classes and it's during practice time, you know, we have the luxury, and I think this is super unique to Virginia Tech, is we can change our schedule. Like I could text Bob and say, hey, you know, this semester I have class during our practice time. Can I come early and do my vault session or do a lift early or whatever? And we have the freedom to do that. And I think that's super unique to us. But sometimes we can kind of fall into like, we take advantage of that sometimes. Like, oh, I have a test or, oh, I want to study. And some people will, you know, go earlier or later, especially for when we do gymnastics. You know, that's a little bit more, it's more free for us to do it whenever we want to.
It's more of like an active recovery day. You know, you'll do like some high bar work, rings, rope, and then couple that with some med ball, hurdle mobility, maybe a bike, you know, high speed bike workout or something like that. You know what I mean? Just something not high intensity, but you're still getting a good workout. So there is more liberty to come and go whenever suits your schedule for those types of workouts.
Are all of the workouts, so like the way that I'm hearing it is that it can vary quite a bit. And like whenever you mentioned vaulting on Sundays, I was like, hold on, is Bob going over there on Sundays?
He's there
Wednesday, Sunday, or he's there all day, every day. I mean, all day on those 2 days, Wednesday and Sunday. Normally for his collegiate group, those are their 2 jump days. He's got sessions, correct me if I'm wrong, from like 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Yeah, I think
Gosh, dang.
And he only puts 2, max 3. It's normally 2 vaulters on the runway. Like insane.
So you get a lot of like, and that's for me too, or I'll jump. This year I've been jumping normally with somebody. In previous years, I've had a lot of solo sessions with him, which was super helpful being new to his group and getting used to his coaching style and him getting used to me, you know. So you get a lot of individual, even if you have another girl or guy, whoever, another body on the runway with you, you still have a lot of one-on-one individualized coaching, I guess you could call it, on your technical days, which is, I think, you know, very crucial and important. You know, I think I've done it both ways. I've jumped in college, you know, alone, you know. Towards the end of my career, there would be only a few girls on the runway, but then early on in my career in college, you know, there would be 4, 5, 6 girls, you know, or jumping with the decks or whatever, just because that's just how it was.
The schedule is more tight.
And I see benefits to both, you know, like there, no one way is wrong or right. Because I do think, like, I'm going to bring it up, like yesterday, Monday, sorry, today's Wednesday. So Monday, Julia and I jumped together, and I added a jump session on Saturday just because because of Christmas this week, I'll miss one jump session. So we put it Saturday. And so I had jumped, normally I jump also twice a week. Monday, Thursday are my jump days. So I jumped Thursday, Saturday, Monday. And that was kind of like a lot of jump sessions in a row. By the time Monday came around, I got to practice and I was like, oh, I got to pole vault again today, you know, like crap, you know, and I just was feeling a bit sluggish and I was tired. I mean, I'm not going to lie. We just came out of a strength phase. So we've been training hard. The volume has been hard, or heavy, I should say. The running volume has been, you know, more than what it normally is throughout other parts of the season, and rightfully so. I believe strongly in building a strong foundation. I respond really well to that. But you know, when you have another body on the runway, like we're jumping 3 lefts, right? So not super long runs by any means, but you know, we're jumping bars and we're having like a little competition to see where we can go. And Julia goes over 405, and I'm like, damn it, I'm gonna go over 405 too, you know? And my point being is that if you don't have somebody on the runway to push you, like I could have seen that I could have seen myself saying, well, maybe we'll just do drills today, or maybe we won't push poles today, or maybe we won't, you know, like I don't know. And that sounds bad because normally, you know, you ask anybody, I'm like, no, we're gonna grind this out.
Yeah.
And like, I don't pull back, but
Yeah.
Saturday would have been a day where I might have said, okay, I'm not gonna fight, you know, I'm not gonna fight this because I'm tired and it's been a lot, you know, we've had a lot of training and I don't want to reinforce bad habits or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
But to have somebody on the runway
Yeah.
was really cool because then we both ended up jumping 405 from 3, and that was like, okay, you know,
That's
like you jump
awesome.
405 from 3 when you
Yeah.
feel like crap, you know, or whatever. And
that's
it's yeah, it pulls out that healthy level of competition just to see
Yeah.
exactly what, you know, what you have in the tank. And
Yeah.
and for you, correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah.
like she didn't want to put the bar at 405 at first,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm like,
my PR at the time was 397.
yeah, I was like 405, come on, you know, like
And I'm
Let's do
jumping
it.
with someone who jumps like 477, 480. You know, like I'm not
Right.
gonna be able to keep up with her.
but you did, you know, and you
pushed me.
her.
you
Yeah.
know?
And to see her clear the bar in her first attempt, she looks over at us like, you know, like, see, you know, so I think my point, all that to say, my point is that when you're training with somebody else, you know, when you have somebody on that runway, you know, you can surprise yourself because
Yeah.
you know, it pulls
100%.
out
The
an extra
energy is
may
different
not
for
get.
sure. The
Yeah.
energy is different. And the thing is like the energy can go both ways. Like, so we added Trevor to our training group this year,
I saw that.
and he's been a blessing, like so much fun, and it's been a lot of fun having him there. But Luke and I are used to just me and Luke. So it was, but now since he's here, like I think back to myself, like how the energy was just a little different when it was just me and Luke, because sometimes it can get a little dead. And like we do private, I don't do them anymore, but like the other coaches here do private like lessons. And sometimes, man, if you get like somebody who doesn't have like kind of a exciting like personality, like it can get really quiet and really dead in there, and it's tough to get the energy up. But then there's also the other thing too, which is that the energy, having you guys working together and like really kind of friendly competition together, the energy was high that day and it could be really good. But then like sometimes one of the athletes comes in and is just dragging and like not having a good day, attitude's bad. And sometimes I feel like that can bleed into the other athlete as well. We were talking about last night, we have like certain classes at Rise that have like, I'm just gonna be honest, like run through issues. And though there's like a certain number of people that have run through issues. And it's weird because they're kind of like segregated into certain classes. And I started like going through my head last night. I was laying in bed and I was just like, I wonder if that's contagious. Like I wonder if like what would happen if we like tracked all the metrics and it was like, all right, this class does this many run throughs every workout. This class does this many run throughs every workout. And then you put a couple of those kids in different classes, if that like is contagious to other people and if it affects other people. And I definitely have been in workouts before where I came into the workout and was like, I am ready to rock. Then this other dude shows up, he's not ready to rock, and he makes me feel like I don't even want to be here. You know? So it's like really it's there's a responsibility in being a training partner.
Yes.
In coming to the workout and realizing that this person that you're training next to is trying to accomplish real things that really mean a lot to them.
Yeah.
And you, whether you have a good day or a bad day, you have to be able to give them the respect of at least fake it. At least fake it, because you don't want to drag them down with you. You know what I'm saying? So
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
a great way to put it.
And I think with our team, every single vaulter that we have wants it. Everyone, I mean, I've trained with boys, girls, all of them. I've jumped with every single one of them except for the newbies. I haven't jumped with them yet. But I think the energy at Tech, and especially with you, everyone wants it. Even if they're having a bad day, like everyone wants it. And I haven't really had negative practice where somebody's tearing me down.
That's awesome.
It can be like, no, I 100% can see that happening.
Do you think that group? So the other thing too that we've noticed is there are some places that just naturally weed those people out. Like without you even trying, like some schools and some, gyms and clubs, they have such a strong program and such a strong like their ethos is the same, and whenever a person comes in that could affect that, they just naturally they just go away, like because they naturally get weeded out, and it's like, yeah, maybe the bad apples just don't fit into that place. And I think maybe Virginia Tech's one of those places that is just it like there's like a magnet pulling good people into that place, and the bad people, it just repels the negative attitudes and the bad apples.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that I've thought about too, is if you got a good culture, it kind of takes care of the bad apples on its own. It just
yeah, I don't think we've really had many bad apples, I'm gonna be honest.
And I think it's like iron sharpens iron, like I'm not saying this is true at Virginia Tech, but just in general, I mean, I can have a bad attitude sometimes too when I come into practice, and I don't want to.
Everybody, yeah,
right? And so, but I will say, like you get there, and if you're the only one acting sour, or you're the only one like, oh, I don't want to do this running workout, or I don't want to do this, whatever, and you're watching everybody else like eagerly doing it, or like, maybe they don't want to do it, but they're not complaining, or they're not whatever, then it kind of like holds you accountable and it shuts you up, and then you just are like, okay, we're in this together, we're going to do this, and we're going to get it done, we're going to do it well.
Right.
So I think, I don't know, I mean, we always used to say in college, like, it sounds funny, but like ride someone else's wave almost, like if someone else, even in a competition, right? Like if someone else is jumping PRs or doing really well, like let them propel you to that next level. Let them, and I think, in smaller situations, I mean, that can happen just in practice, or
that's a great point. Yeah, just grab onto it and be like, I'll go for the ride. Yeah, come on. I don't feel very good today, so I'll
here,
just grab onto you,
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's important to have in a training group. And I think we do have that, like I can think of a ton of situations that's been the case, We have a kid, Jack. This is funny.
Oh, yeah, love him.
He's a solid kid, Jack.
He's also from Minnesota.
Yeah.
By the way. So the
solid people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, solid people up there.
And he's had, I mean, talk about somebody who's, come in with like a humble beginning, I guess, to a collegiate career.
And he won state in Minnesota, he had success in high school, but then coming from high school to college, huge D1 school,
right?
Especially as a guy, there's extra pressure on guys in college because the bar is so high for guys.
Right.
Right now it's crazy. Yeah.
Amount of scholarships too for guys.
Yeah.
But
for sure.
But, he and he knew what he had to do to come back last summer. He knew what he had to do over the summer to come back this year stronger. And he did just that. He's exceeded pretty much everyone's expectations by a bunch. Absolutely. But, every once in a while we'll link up for a running workout, and he was with me early on in my fall training when because of Pan Am's, the schedule was my training schedule was just kind of jacked up because the meet was in November.
So congratulations on that, by the way.
Thank you. Thanks.
Pretty cool.
I did like a prep. I took my 3 weeks off, whatever, did a prep, went to the meet, and then really started base training.
Yeah.
And I was not in any kind of endurance shape, like I was just dying. Heart rate was high the whole way through the workout. But Jack is like, Bridget, let's go, like 4 minutes is up. Like we got to be on the line. Like you need to get on with this workout because you've already taken enough rest, and I think, I'm almost a decade older than him. Let's go, like no time to be wasted here, like get on it, so but my point being too here is that I just think that speaks to the culture that is on our team. Like we all look out for each other, even if it's not necessarily what we wanted to hear. I surely I don't want to be corrected by a younger person on the team, but it keeps you on, it keeps you working hard and keeps you on target, I guess, like
I think that's something that I wish I would have had after school. I think about that a lot.
Mhm.
Um because it was just me. Like, and I thankfully grew up, I got out of college at a time where you didn't have to jump like extraordinarily high to like do that post collegiate stuff. And 18 feet at that time, during that specific time, was very competitive at any meet that you would go to. And so I got out of school and I was just like, it was just me, man. It was just me, and I knew I wanted to get a full-time job because I wanted to take care of my wife. I wanted, like, it
Mhm.
was so hard because it was like I wanted two things. I wanted my wife, who had stuck around with me through some really tough times, like I wanted her to be able to, like, have a decent car and, like, have a house to live in, like, that was decent. So I knew that I had to make some money doing that. So I worked full time as a teacher. And I just remember just being all by myself all the time. Like, I'd wake up and I'd do like a little workout, then go to school, teach all day, and then drive to go work out by myself. And it did get pretty lonely. I learned a lot about myself and a lot about how I can count on myself even when nobody else is around. So I'm very thankful for those lessons. But I do kind of wish that I had other people around me that I could vault with and train with, and who could maybe lift me up a little bit more on a day where I was beat down and things like that. So good for Jack. Nice job, Jack.
Yeah.
Way to lift her up. Get her on the line, man. Come
Yeah.
on.
My heart rate was like, I swear, I put Kenna's Apple Watch on. My heart rate early on was like 155 after like 5 minutes of rest, after
Yeah.
only a few 150s or whatever. I was running 135s, and I was like, come on, Bridget, like get with it. But I was just struggling. I was struggling, man. Early on, I was struggling.
Really, really quick, Bridget. I am curious about this. And then Julia, I have something to ask you. Um, what what went into that decision? Because to do Pan Ams, because Luke and I were talking, we were like, man, that's a tough one. That's a really tough one, training wise. So what it went into that decision to, like, I'm gonna do this, and I know my training is going to be very odd the first part of the year.
Yeah, so I think a few things. So first, like having made my first world team, I was proud of how I competed in the prelim, but the final, I was just, I mean, unacceptable, right?
Mm,
Unacceptable performance for what what I'm capable of. And so, after the final in Budapest, I was just like, crap, that's not how that should have went out. And I'm not going to get, so far into it, but I think it left a fire in my stomach, and Pan Am's had always been on the schedule. Like Bob and I will sit at the beginning of every year and map out, okay, these are all of the meets possible for this year, or these are all the meets available. And then which ones do we get invited to? Which ones are feasible? Which ones make sense? Which ones, are worth points, whatever, and kind of prioritize and build the season around that. And so Pan Am's was the last meet on the schedule. So it was always there. It was always there, on the calendar. But I think especially after the world final, it was just like, okay, you have some proving to do. Like not necessarily to everyone else, but to yourself,
Yeah.
right?
mm.
Like to me, because I was jumping great. I came into world championships in some of the best shape that I had been in all year last year. And uh it just kind of I didn't ride that wave, right? Like I didn't rise to the occasion in the final.
What do
And
you think happened in the final?
uh couple things. Not a lot of people know this. I've said it in a few other podcasts. I had some vertigo going on, and I hesitate to even say it out loud because people are like, "Oh, she's making an excuse. That's why she didn't do well." But I
Right.
had some intense vertigo happening all year last year. That
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah, like it started last November in 2022. I had COVID for the first time pretty bad, and after I had COVID I was just feeling like my ears were really clogged after having COVID. I don't know if I had an ear infection, just didn't know. But somewhere along the lines, my vestibular nerve in my ear got disrupted and just screwed up. It wasn't working properly. And so I was diagnosed with something called vestibular hypofunction, but not until I got home from the World Championships. What was that? In September, I think I got home, early
Yeah.
September or
Right.
late August. So I went almost a full year, like 9 months. I went feeling just on and off intense vertigo. And I had gone to, this is probably the most in depth that I've shared on a podcast, but in case someone else is going through this, like I had unexplained dizziness, right? And I went to the PCP, I went to the ENT, I went to the heart doctor because they thought maybe I had POTS after I had COVID or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't have that, I was working with our sports psychologist, at Virginia Tech, who has been a godsend to me, just really, really helpful. And talked to family friends that were doctors or whatever, and everyone's like, oh, you just have really bad anxiety, you should think about antidepressant, you should whatever. And I'm like, no, like I have never struggled with anxiety that was so debilitating. Like, I mean, whatever, I'm just going to be transparent. Like my husband thought I was depressed. Like people thought, my parents thought something was wrong with me. Like I only had enough energy to get to practice and to get home. Like it took everything in my being to just make it through the day. Because I was feeling so, like, the only way I can describe it is if you spend a long time on a cruise ship or boat and you get off and you just feel like you're like, you feel drunk almost. And that's it was just awful. And so I think in Budapest, the catalyst in the final was like big flashing lights. It was hot. I was overwhelmed. I was under stress, like I couldn't see straight. I was like running over to Bob. I ran through a lot of my jumps in the warm up and he's like, what is going on? And I was like, I'm so freaking dizzy. Like I'm just trying to compose myself and I am not doing a good job. And so, and I was the only girl to miss at 450, right? So that put me back. I was number 2 in the lineup. And so I was jumping back to back and, I went out on a run through, I had 2 run throughs and a blow through at the next bar. I think whatever, 61 was it or 65? I can't remember what the bar went to after 50. And so I think, I was too intact with all the noise surrounding me, not literal noise, but just like, I wasn't feeling good. And I was like, oh crap, I'm not feeling good. This is the world final. I need to be feeling good. And then I missed and I was like, crap, I was the only one that I met. I was the only one to miss. And so I just kind of was derailing in my head, whereas in the prelim, it was the same conditions, but I just did a much better job of blocking all that other nonsense out of my brain and just focusing on the job that needed to be done. And I just failed to do so in the final. I mean, that's just point blank. I didn't
Well, to validate your situation there, my brother was severely impacted. Not my brother Luke, my other brother Josh in Hugo, Minnesota. He still is dealing with extreme issues, like long COVID issues, and his were more heart related. And just overall general fatigue. He's been like in and out of Mayo Clinic like bunch of times, in and out of the hospital like a bunch of times. Then my coworker, I stopped teaching like almost 2 years ago, and I'm doing this full time now. And my coworker that I taught with for 11 years, super stable, awesome dude, got COVID, and he has those exact same symptoms. Like he told me, he was like, dude, I can't even stand up. He was like, I can't even stand up. I can't even like, he'd used the exact same analogy. He was like, I feel like I'm drunk. Like, I feel like I shouldn't drive right now. Like, I feel like I shouldn't drive. And he's going through a whole bunch of battery of tests and things like that, like a whole bunch of stuff to try to figure that out. So anybody else out there that's going to like say that that's bullshit, like it's not.
It's not. Yeah, it's really not. And so, and it was Bob's daughter, she's a physical therapist in Northern Virginia, I guess. And after Budapest, I was like, listen, like we gotta figure this out. Like we have to get to the bottom of this. This has gone way too long. It's sucking my life out of me, like it's disrupting what I love to do. Like when you don't feel well, I think I'm going on a little bit of a tangent, but I'm sure we've all been there. Like when you don't feel well, or when you're injured or whatever, and you can't get to the bottom of whatever is happening to you, it literally sucks you so dry that you just have, like, I was just dead, like I didn't have the motivation. I was trying to fake it, and I think I did a good job of faking it, but like it was so exhausting and it was so miserable. Like by the time, it just, I don't know. By the time the season ended, like after Worlds, I was like, I just need to go home. Like we just need to figure out what the heck is wrong with me. And then, so fast forward, I was talking to Bob's daughter on the way home from Budapest. She picked us up from the airport, and she was talking to a PT friend that went to school with her who works in a neurology's office. She does a lot of work with stroke patients. And she's like, yeah, I'm not seeing any neurological like concerns, but like she needs to go see a vestibular therapist. I went to see a vestibular therapist 2 times a week for like 7 weeks or so. Gone. Nothing.
No way.
Yeah, I had vestibular hypofunction. Basically, the vestibular nerve gets screwed up and she thinks from COVID or ear infection that I didn't know about or whatever.
Right.
And stress makes it worse. It makes you feel drunk. Like I felt claustrophobic in the shower, like those are all really common signs. Grocery stores screwed me up really badly. Flashing lights, swirling banners, like in a big stadium, all of that stuff. That
the
was
World Championships.
Yeah, like all of that stuff that was just heat, extreme, like extreme cold, extreme hot, all of that are like classic textbook symptoms of like vestibular hypofunction when your vestibular system is just not working. So I went, and it was hell at the beginning, but I tell you what, I have not been dizzy since. I have no issues. And I'm like, why did it take me 9 months to figure this out? But so, I mean, and
at least you're there. At least you're there now.
There. And so hopefully if anybody else is feeling weird after illness or whatever, and nothing else is coming up in your test results, like go see a vestibular therapist, because I mean, the therapy is potent. It's short, but it's potent and it works. So I swear by it. I literally told my therapist, shout out to her, like, you have given me my life back. You have no idea. Everybody that was alongside me throughout all of that last year. And and most of them are still around now, they know, they're like, you're different. You're way different.
I say this a million times on the podcast, but I got to just say it again. So awesome to be able to do a podcast and to see backstory, like, because everyone is just like, oh, why'd Bridget mess up at the world final? But it's like, well, there's always like generally a reason for things. Like if it's like somebody's acting out of their character, it's like, man, that just doesn't look like the same person, a lot of times there's something behind it. And it's so cool that you shared that story, because there's so many people that deal with those feelings of just like, well, I guess I'm just not meant to be at that level, or I'm not, whatever, this, that, and the other. And it's like everybody's dealing with stuff behind the scenes that you have nobody knows about.
And I think go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead. You go ahead, and then I was going to talk to Julia about the thing that she's been dealing with.
Yeah, good segue. But what I was going to say is, like, as an athlete, you hesitate to even share it because you don't want to ever come across as like, oh, this is my excuse.
Right, exactly.
When it is actually a true reality for you. Like, I'm not saying, I didn't perform well because of the vestibular whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that was going on, and I myself didn't do a good job blocking that out like I did in the prelim or any other meet that I competed in leading up to the world final, right?
Right. Well, I mean, it didn't help.
It didn't help. But, and I guess the second component, which leads well into Julia's situation, I always tell her this too with her back, like as an athlete or just as a human being, advocate for yourself when it comes to your medical needs. Like, do not let any other doctor, I don't care who they are, tell you, oh, this is what it is. If you in your gut believe it is not right for you, or it is not what's going on, like, yes, I have anxiety, but I did not have such bad anxiety that I needed to medicate or whatever, like something else was going on. But if I wouldn't have advocated, then who knows who knows what I would be like now. Right.
Right. So, right. Exactly. And show me one person in that world final that didn't have anxiety. Like everybody, like on that stage, like everybody is feeling really a lot of pressure, and it's really, really difficult. But to blame it on that is kind of like, I don't know if I buy that.
Yeah, it didn't add up, and that's what I tell Julia all the time with her back. I was like, if whatever you're doing is not helping, go find somebody that's gonna help you. You know,
Yeah,
like
That's
because
the biggest.
you know your body the best.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Julia.
That's the biggest thing that I've learned in college, me and my family, and just going through injuries, because injuries are going to happen. You're going to go through hard times medically, and the vault is an intense sport. You're doing the same thing over and over and over again, and you got other external factors like getting sick and getting COVID and all those things. But the whole situation with the doctors, especially in college, is you have your collegiate doctors that are designated for your sport or for whatever, and they're great, and you never want to discredit them. They've put in the hard work to know all that they know, but they're not necessarily the expert in the problem that you have. And I had problems my first 2 years of college and even in high school with my foot. I just kept breaking my foot, my right foot, for some reason. Yeah, and it was like
Jeez.
2-3 times that it happened in the same spot.
You're a right-handed vaulter, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
gotcha.
So it was weird that's my right foot, because I take off my left, but
Yeah.
for some problems with my right. And the first time that it happened, or no, the second time that I had broken it, no one knew. I had the x-rays, I had the MRIs, I did everything. And every single doctor, especially the college doctors that we had, they're like, no, you look good. It's probably some like ligament tendon something situation. But I knew, and this is another point, your body, if something's off and you don't feel like it's right, you're probably right, because the doctors don't know what you're feeling. And I knew I had broken it. I knew it was broken, but the x-ray wasn't showing it. And so when was that? SECs at Georgia. Yeah, I think it was indoor SECs. I actually ended up winning. I had a broken foot.
Wow.
And no one knew, and I didn't even know. But that's why I ended up redshirting my outdoor season, because it got so bad that I could barely walk. I literally couldn't walk. And that whole time, we went to a couple doctors, but all of them said that I was fine. It wasn't until the summer when I went home to Minnesota and I was fed up, because I was like, I'm literally walking in pain. I can't do anything. I went to a foot specialist that I had seen in high school, and he looked at the images, and immediately he was like, yeah, your foot's broken. It's been broken since February or whatever. And I was like,
how does that slip by?
Yes. And that's not to discredit doctors, but they're busy, and they, I don't know what it is.
Well, here's something really quick to think about. This is what I always think about. All right. So in every profession, it's like it's on a spectrum of you got really good doctors and you got not so good doctors, And sometimes if you're just going to a random person that you don't really know, it's like, where are they on that spectrum?
Right.
How do you know? And then the other thing that I always think about that's kind of scary to think about is when you guys are or right around college age. So you go and you get your degree and you go to med school, and there are people who get their medical degree that just barely got it.
Yeah, just barely.
Their professors were like, hey, I like this person. Let's just get this guy through. Let's just get this girl through. And you could be showing up to that doctor. You know what I'm saying? And it's and so you just and again, doctors are incredible. I mean, I hope that you guys have seen incredible doctors, because I've seen incredible doctors and they are like magicians, man. They're so good. But I've also been to bad doctors, and when people come to me and they say hey, I got to take 6 weeks off. The doctor told me I got to take 6 weeks and take ibuprofen. I'm like, bad doctor. Okay.
Yeah.
That's not the one, man. You got to go find a different one, and you got to find one. And if you're lucky, sometime throughout your career, you can find a doctor that you can trust your body with. And I was lucky enough to find that. And that is an invaluable thing. But I just wanted to put that out there, that you never know where your doctor that you just found on Google, you never know where they line up on that spectrum, you know? So getting personal recommendations, talking to other elite vaulters, there's so many good resources. Like you talk to a guy like Jeff Hartwig or like Brad Walker or somebody like that, that it's like they're gonna have really good recommendations, you know. So if you're struggling out there and you, I think it would be just be good just to try to get in contact with somebody who would have a good reference for you, you know, and then
Yeah,
you can
so
like
true.
post or get past all the BS stuff and get right to the good one.
I feel like
Julia, I'm sorry I interrupted you on that. I
okay,
just get
real
passionate
quick.
about
My
that.
mom, I could have a
Yeah,
whole podcast
yeah.
with my mom because
Have her on. Yeah.
seriously, she's the one, she's kind of my momager. Like she, especially medically, she's always been the one, if I have some problem, she's kind of the one trying to find people. And one thing that she would always say to any, high school, college vaulter is, post something on Facebook, like ask your friends, ask, whatever,
Beautiful.
ask people, because you never know when someone will read your story or your symptoms and something and know the person that can help you. And that's how
Yeah.
I've gone through a lot of my injuries, and even the back injury that I have right now is through word of mouth, through just reaching out, through putting the word out there. Because if you're just by yourself trying to figure out by yourself trying to find the doctors, or even just sticking to the doctors that you get at college, you're not going to get exactly the tailored person or people or resources that you need. You just have to get the word out.
Yeah.
And you guys are elite athletes. You're not like just playing, you know, soccer on Saturdays, you know, like you guys are elite athletes. And that's another thing that I think we could do a better job of. One of the things is finances. Like, you know, Bridget, you need to be able to go and compete in meets that are going to give you the best opportunity to be able to succeed. So you need funding to be able to do that. But another thing is treatment. Like we should have some sort of resource that is like a list of like these are the people you got to go see. Like if you have a foot injury, like there's been this many post collegiate pole vaulters that have seen this person and this many people have had it resolved. You know, that how valuable would something like that be, you know, to just be like, yeah, this is a resource and we can get it, you know, funded or whatever.
I
You
will
know,
say I've never taken advantage of it, but with the tier funding package, you do have, like, as a tier or TPP, which is the talent protection program
yeah,
for um, people fresh out of college, you do have access to, you know, a resource of medical professionals at
that's
different,
good.
because your health insurance is linked, can be linked to your tier funding, and I believe it's the same for TPP, whatever it's called, TCP, whatever, what it's called. Um, it's linked to the health insurance, and I don't take it because my husband has good. I mean, it's basically the equivalent
Right,
coverage, and I don't want to pay twice.
Yeah.
Pay taxes
right.
on twice. Anyways, but I will say, yeah, I think I can't really speak to it, but I know that it is available for people to take advantage of.
So maybe
Um,
that's something that I could look into and other people could look into and see like, okay, maybe that resource does exist and people
yeah,
just
I know
maybe
it
don't
does
know
fit
about it.
with our tier package. I don't know how it works for other people, but yeah, because I mean, even when I was having vestibular things way back at the Birmingham final, I had texted one of the USATF PTs, and I was like, okay, this is getting old, and this was back in March or February, whenever I
Right.
was. And she's like, well, we got people in Houston or whatever, we can just set it up. So I know there is medical out
Sweet.
there. I just don't know. Again, I haven't taken advantage of it, so I'm not as familiar with
I
it.
didn't even know.
Yeah.
Right, right. So Julia, you finally find this guy who's like, yeah, your foot is fractured. Where do you go from there?
Got surgery.
Got
Yeah.
surgery.
Well, I think for him, he also had the connections to the surgeons and the people to help me out. But he got to the root cause. Him and the surgeon that he works really close with got to the root cause. And it's kind of weird, but basically with my foot problem is my foot pronates. So my foot goes inwards naturally.
Hmm.
My foot is super flat.
Mm.
And the doctor said that, most of your weight should be going to your big toe. That's where all the force, 50, 75%, whatever the number is, most of it should be going on that big toe, but for me, it was going on my second toe, my second metatarsal.
Mm.
And for some reason, it was something to do with the angle of it, the length of it, of that toe was, and the structure of my foot was putting so much force on that toe. And they were able to get to the root cause of like what was my issue. And so him and the surgeon, like they talked and I ended up getting surgery. And then that's actually when I went to Virginia Tech right after my surgery.
Yeah.
So that
Oh,
was,
wow.
talk about a crazy transition into Virginia Tech. Like I lost my coach, I had to transfer, I had surgery. You know, there was a lot kind of going against me, but
I remember meeting you for the first time. Do you remember?
yeah.
Outside
of Rectory?
Yeah, outside of the track. And she was like, we were
I
like
was scared of her a little bit.
And I remember she was like, "Can I hug you?" I was like, "Sure."
Yeah. I was nervous. I was like, I don't know what to do with this really good vaulter, so I'm just gonna hug her.
Yeah,
I
that's
remember
awesome.
that. I think you were going for like PT or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was early morning, but I was like, okay, this is cool. You know, I remember that.
That's hilarious. So,
Yeah.
Julia, when did your back stuff start?
I've always had back stuff. I mean, ever since high school. I'm 5'11" actually, and so I've always been really tall, and I've had, you know, back stuff, a lot of back stuff in gymnastics, and then here and there as I've been a vaulter. But it's always been like, you know, after vault practice for the first time in like a few months or something, you know, I might just need to go into the chiropractor and get adjusted, and like 3 days later I'd be good to go. But this time around it was different because over the summer I actually got a full-time internship. Yeah, and it was an office job, so I was sitting a lot and I was standing a lot. Then I also coached on the side, and then I had a class.
She stayed busy.
Yeah. Yeah, sounds like it. Jeez.
You know, like, and this was a decision I made for myself because, you know, a lot of people were asking me, why am I not, you know, right after nationals, I am doing super well. I just won. Why didn't I go to USA's? And for me, I knew I wanted to get an internship and I wanted to get that, you know, experience.
Internship for what?
A wedding card company, actually.
Okay,
I
cool.
was their
Very
design,
cool.
social media, became a blog editor for them.
Wow.
So that's what I was doing. I was doing a bunch of stuff, but I was their intern. And I knew I wanted to invest my time into that because, you know, pole vault's not guaranteed. And I want to pole vault for the, you know, for the rest of my life for as long as I can. But I know I need to, you know, invest time in other things as well. And so I really wanted to do this internship. I wanted to do full time because I wanted to set the tone to the company that you know, I'm going to be here. I'm going to be the first one here and the last one out and gain the respect. And for me, I really value that, is like setting the tone really early and letting them know that, yeah, I'm a pole vaulter, but I can work too. And I think that was really good for me, but it was a lot of sitting. And
yeah, that'll get you. Luke, I think struggles with that. Sometimes his back is your lower left, I'm assuming. Lower left. So like sometimes that'll mess with him too. And he lives in Chicago and it's not that far of a drive. It's like maybe like 40 minutes to Rise. But with traffic sometimes it can just be really gnarly. And that's something that we've noticed is like, all right, dude, like if you're sitting down in the car, like before a vault workout for however long, you need to get here way earlier than your vault workout and you need to move around and you need to walk. You can't just go from just like sitting in that car. Your psoas is just contracted up and your hip flexors are just, you know, yanking on your back. You can't do that and then just like hop into Rise and just start warming up. You know, you gotta actually do that sitting down. And then the other thing too, Bridget, you probably, I don't know if you've dealt with back issues, but like traveling, man, like being on a plane, holy cow, especially going to, you know, where you went to. Pretty crazy.
Yeah, I had a back injury my junior year of college. It took me out 10 months. I redshirted my whole junior year. That gave me a fifth
10
year.
months.
I had one disc bulge. And again, like same thing, you know, like we looked at all kind of different options. And the one thing that I was really against getting an epidural steroid injection, I think is what it was.
Yeah.
I am like ultra conservative when it comes to medical intervention, try to do the least invasive. So I took 10 months off. The spine surgeon, you know, talked to my parents and said, yeah, she will recover. I had really, really weak glutes and really weak lower abdominal muscles, like could not push my spine to the ground and hold it there, it would shake.
Whoa.
Just, yeah. Like I remember thinking I have muscles, like my core is strong. And they're like, no, we're not talking about like the ones you see. It's like these deep abdominal muscles that, are not functioning properly. And so my, I guess hamstrings were taking a lot of the load. And anyways, and I have my just anatomically, is that the right word? Just my spine is pretty curved. I have a lot of which way is it? Posterior, anterior tilt.
Yeah. Something
Right.
like that.
I let my stomach sag when I run. My hips are always turned forward. Whatever that is.
Oh, yeah. So that would
So
be
it puts a lot of
anterior.
compression on anterior tilt. Yeah, it puts a lot of pressure on the lower back.
Yeah, for sure.
Once I did a bunch of PT, dry needling is what I was getting at, helped me a ton.
Yeah, that's funny. Luke did dry needling last year, and that really helped him out a lot too.
Yeah.
I've never had it done. I always wanted to do it. He
It's
said it's
awesome.
crazy. He said it's like they'll get into a spot and like your stuff will just start twitching and going crazy.
Yeah.
I find that very interesting. I would love to do that.
Yeah, highly recommend. It is awesome. Like that was the only thing that helped me. The only thing. Well, in addition to like rest or whatever, letting the inflammation come down and strengthening everything. But
Yeah.
I would do it every other week for the whole season.
Wow, that's awesome. So Julia, you're coming off of, so how do you, is it just overuse? That's kind of what happened with your back?
I think it was a combination of things, and this is, I mean, the past week I've learned a lot ever since school has stopped, and I decided to put my 2 weeks in at my job because I've actually been working since the summer. And I think, to be honest, after thinking and going to many doctors and stuff like that, I think it was my schedule. I think it was, I mean, if you saw my calendars, I mean, it's like one thing after another, and full load of classes and working on top of that, and then trying to train on top of that. I mean, it was kind of an echo of my summer, and I didn't really have. I mean, I'd even work on the weekends. Like I really didn't. I didn't
Yeah,
have.
you don't have to do that. Like, do that when you're my age. Like,
Yeah, she's
don't do
learning.
that now.
Learning, and
She's learning.
And I want other people to know too. Is like, yeah, you want to do all of these things, and you want to invest in a career, and you want to vault, and you want to graduate and all that, but you really need to prioritize what you want to do. Yeah,
right.
Really narrow your focus, and yes, get into do other things to balance of variety in your life, but don't try to do everything. Have time for yourself to rest and recover, because I wrote this on the board. We have a little whiteboard that I always do like motivation, or I write little quotes.
Yeah, she does. It's good though.
But I wrote work hard, recover harder. And that's one of the things that I'm learning is like, you can work hard. I mean, for me, I'm always going to work hard. I feel like it's in my nature. I think it's in your nature too. But we have to be extremely intentional about our recovery, and also like our schedule. You can't have things back to back to back. Otherwise things will just build up and manifest in stress and pain in your body.
Yeah.
And for me, I think that's what my back issue was. It was literally just stress and not recovering, and just working.
Yeah. Coming from a guy who's 36, has 2 little girls, and runs 3 businesses, you can do that all through the rest of your life. You can have back-to-back schedule whenever you're my age. You really just don't have to do that right now. And there's a very small window of time that you get to be as fit as you guys are, and as strong as you guys are, and as fast as you guys are. And you don't have to, it's a very limited amount of time, man. It's like it's so crazy looking back on it, how small of amount of time it was. And it's just like, I'm not saying like you should just pole vault and that's all you should do, because if you pole vault all day and all you do is think about pole vaulting, you're going to wreck yourself too. But, working crazy schedules is pretty tough. But I think, Julia, you hit the nail on the head. I would probably say every single person that I've ever had on this podcast has never had the issue of not working enough, or not trying enough. you guys both, like, if you got to the level that you're at right now, you guys both have the issue of working too much. You'll always deal with that probably for the rest of your life. Probably for the rest of your life, you will be always having to pull the reins back on yourself and be like, just chill, 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 stop, 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 you know? And it's a really incredible attribute because it'll take you so far in pole vaulting, but it will also take you far in whatever it is you decide to do after that. But then it's a double-edged sword because then all of a sudden it's like, well, I got this idea. Like then you end up like me where it's like, you got this idea. Oh, let's do that. Oh, I got this idea. Let's do that one too. And then all of a sudden you sit down one day and you're like, dude, I'm doing like 50 things like all at the same time. What did I do to myself? You know? And that's when you gotta re-correct, like what you said you did, Julia, is you gotta like sit down and be like, all right, I did it again. I overextended myself. Dang it. And then you just correct. You just correct it and then you just move forward from there, you know?
Also
Oop.
knowing why you're doing some things. And I think for me, the internship, and I think the internship was good, but then to continue working on, through this last semester, I was doing it because it was rooted in fear, to be honest. And to be completely transparent, I'm scared to not have money to pole vault after college, because I know, like,
That's
if I'm not,
valid.
and so I had this like financial security in the back of my head. Like, if I keep this job, then I can continue vaulting, after college. But then I realized, all this stuff that I'm doing is prohibiting me from pole vaulting, from
Yeah.
doing what is manifesting in pain for me. And so, I mean, literally just this last week, I mean, I've really come to terms of, I need to cut back in order to have that dream. And I need to have faith that no matter what happens, if I continue vaulting or not after college, like, I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And having faith over fear with finances, that's a real struggle to have that. But.
Yeah. I think it's a natural struggle, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, we're both pretty strong in our faith. And I think, if it's the path that you're meant to go down, God will provide. So, I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, I've lived it, in Charlottesville.
Yeah, you're a
testimony. I never thought, and I kept telling myself, because I didn't know, right? Like, I didn't know if this would work out or if I would get better or whatever. I wanted to get better. I was going to try my hardest, but I didn't really know exactly how it was going to go. I only jumped 446 in college and wasn't sure. But I kept telling myself, okay, if this is where I'm meant to be, like, God will show up and opportunities will arise, right? And like right before COVID, I jumped 461 and I was like, okay, there we go. Like that was the next little tick. That's all I needed to just get to the next thing. And then, it just builds. And then money, if you jump well, if you make teams, whatever, money will follow. And you can't, I think Brad actually had talked to me. I had dinner with him and Katie and Gabby and Sage back at the annual meeting last year. And that's the first time I really got to know them on that kind of casual level. And we were just talking very just being vulnerable with each other. And I was asking questions just out of ignorance because I didn't know exactly how this worked or whatever, post collegiate and whatever, with the funding and opportunities and making teams and sponsorships and agents and all, like I just didn't know.
Yeah.
And kudos to them because they were really just, straight shooters, just said, hey, this is what it is. This is what it's going to be like, whatever. This is my advice. And something that Brad said really stuck with me. He's like, if you try, or if you fixate on the money, or you fixate on the sponsorship, or you fixate on all this crap, he's like, it'll kill your dream. Like, I'm paraphrasing, but he was like, it will drive you up a wall, So like, stay healthy, keep getting better, jump high, believe in yourself. Things will take care of it. Things will take care of itself. And they do. They really, really do. But it is hard to not get caught up in that stuff, But yeah, I think that was great advice and I try to say that to everyone else in our group too. Like, do it your way. You know what I mean? Like, stay true to yourself and don't get caught up in the business side. I don't have a sponsorship, or I didn't get into this meet, or I didn't get invited, or whatever. Who cares? Take the opportunities that you have with the money that you have and do the best. Jump your best. That's it.
And keep having
and love it. Yeah.
That's 100%. My dad always used to call it the dark side of pole vaulting.
Yeah.
And he would tell me, he would be like, you're getting wrapped up in the dark side, man.
Yeah.
You're getting wrapped up in the dark side, and you got to stop that, because that's not going to do anything for you. Like stressing about, well, these guys got into this meet and whatever. It's like, that's the dark side, man. You have to focus on what got you there. What got you there? Working hard, showing up, and having faith that, like you said, God's plan is going to be revealed to you. And if you do those things and you just keep doing it consistently over time, I really like the term you used, Bridget, slow burn. I love that. I have never really heard that. That is a really good way of putting it. If you want to do some sort of like smash and grab thing after college, it's probably not going to happen. Like it's
Yeah.
going to be a long, slow grind, and only the fittest will survive it. And you just have to show up and have faith, and just be happy and try to enjoy what you're doing, and those sorts of things, they generally produce fruit, whether it's in pole vaulting or if it's in business or your family life or your personal life. Like those things generally, you know work themselves out.
I even think of, for me, like I think of, the transfer. That was one of the hardest things for me, was transferring schools, because I loved it and I was, injured and all this, but I knew in my mind and in my heart, I wanted to become a national champion. I knew that's what I wanted to do in order to, it took sacrifice in order to get to that point.
Right.
And,
pulled you out of your comfort zone.
totally pulled me out of my comfort zone.
Oh yeah.
But I knew, that was what I wanted, and it was a slow burn. I didn't win right away, whatever. I had success right away, but and also like with national championships and world championships and all that, it can be you. It can be anyone. I never thought I could be, me, a little girl from Minnesota, like traveling and going to D1 schools and then becoming national champion. Like you can't count yourself out. It's a slow burn. It takes a while.
Yeah, Luke always says, since we started training together, he was like, why not me?
Yeah, exactly.
Why couldn't I be that person?
Yeah, whoever's listening, why can't it be you?
Yeah.
Come on,
why not? Why not? You're never gonna get there if you don't, truly like have faith that it could be you. Really quick, Julia, so are you healthy now? Like, are you on the tail end of that?
I think I'm on the tail end.
Okay, so you're getting there, and you think you're gonna be able to be good this year, like health wise, at least at the beginning of the year.
Indoor is a little questionable for me, which is, it's not that big of a deal because I'll have a full year next year.
Right.
I have 2 years, 2 outdoors and 1 indoor, and so I kind of get to choose what indoor, how I want to use it. And I think, I could compete indoor. I literally just started vaulting like this last week.
And she already crushed it. She won't tell you this, but she had a solid week of training this week. Yeah.
I saw the jump you posted. It looked good.
I would say it's because of her. Because, like, I don't know. Bridget is the one person that will always motivate me. Like, even just her presence, I'm just like, okay, let's go.
Yeah. Well, I can say the same.
That's awesome.
Indoor is like, we'll see with indoor. I'm not pressed or stressed about competing or not. If I go unattached and I'm able to jump from 5 lefts, I will compete unattached, and, I'll keep going. My goal this year is I want to make it to the Olympic trials and compete at the Olympic trials. I wasn't able to do that in 2020 because of the foot. That's when I had the surgery and everything. So
yeah, right.
I really want to get out there and compete over the summer. And also, I'd like to get in the 60s and the 70s.
Yeah, for sure. So there was one question. We've already been going for a while now.
We can talk all this.
Yeah, no,
I know, right?
Conversations. That's why I think we've been wanting to start we've been wanting to do a podcast because we can talk for hours.
You should.
Like, it doesn't stop.
We really do. Like, every time I do one, I've done well. I think it comes with as you get better, but you know, like I've done so many podcasts this year, and every time I finish, I'm like, man, that's so fun. Like, why don't we start one? You know,
You
but I
guys are
don't.
really good at it. Like you're really good. Like you never know when you have a guest on. You never know. Like it could flop. Like there's some people that I have to like, I'm not gonna like name any names, but there's some people that you really have to
Yeah.
lead into questions and stuff like that. You guys really flow really, really well. And we just took a video before this that we'll post up on the Rise Instagram of our setup. You guys should just get a setup and do it. It would be really, really cool. I
Yeah.
mean, there's got to be more stuff like this out there. Like there has to be more than one or two podcasts for pole vaulters to listen to, man. Like there's
Yeah.
got to be something, or even if it's not even about pole vaulting, even if it's just about you guys and your life, like people really find a lot of value in, a lot of people look up to you guys, and it would be cool just to hear something different that they're not used to hearing. So what's holding you back? Why wouldn't you do it?
Oh, well, my job was kind of holding us back, not gonna lie.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, your schedule. Yeah, your crazy
Yeah, just
schedule.
graduate already and be done with school. I'm
No,
kidding.
we're actually really serious about this now, and
Yeah.
we have a place at Tech. They have like for students, they have like a studio and like a podcast setup that I can use.
Perfect.
So
Yeah.
we
tried to
Bridget-
do it for this but because of winter break, they didn't allow us. So
Yeah.
now we're at my house.
But Bridget and I have
That's
been
fine.
talking about this for 2 years.
Yeah, we really have.
Seriously, we have.
Yeah.
And the reason why, remember when I messaged you about whatever? I always listen to your podcast. I always listen.
I
to
do
all the
too.
things
They're
that you
so
post.
helpful. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Something that I really wanted to compliment you, because what you are doing for the pole vault community is like nothing out there. And I get so much value from what you're saying and the people that you're talking to, and getting like what we talked about, the backstories of Neats and Katarina. I love that episode of
That was
her.
a good one. Yeah.
It was so valuable for me, and I would love to keep pouring into people, and
It reminds me of what you said about the doctors, right? Like you ask, the best of the best, or ask Jeff or Brad or people who've been there, who've done that, who've worked with so many athletes, over so many years, who have done and accomplished what, what you hope to, or whatever the case.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think like to what Julia was saying, like your podcast and some of the other ones that are out there, like it's almost where it's like the first place I go if I'm like, okay, I'm feeling this way or whatever. Like, let me see if I can find, like, I pull wisdom from podcasts from people who've been there, even if I'm not necessarily close enough to be like, hey, I'm going through this problem, or whatever. This is my situation, or I'm trying to make it here, or, this was my first world championship, whatever the thing, like, granted, there's probably going to be a podcast out there. So pull wisdom from somebody who actually did it or went through it or whatever, so I think that's
Absolutely. Yeah, you guys definitely should. And if you have any questions on like how to do it or set it up or whatever, like I'm totally open to helping you guys out with that, because I think it would be really, really cool. And like I said, one of our biggest missions at Rise is just to get more stuff that pole vaulters can be like a fan of. Like there's just not, it's getting better, but there's not a lot to choose from, besides just like seeing people's pole vaults,
No,
yeah.
Remember you saying that in a past podcast. Like,
It's just like you go on Instagram and it's just like, oh, that person pole vaulted today. That person pole vaulted today. It's like, all right, I know you guys can pole vault. Like I want to hear about some other stuff too. Like,
you think of pole vault, it is one of the most mental sports. I mean, it is not just physical, it's mostly mental. And like I think there's so much value into getting inside the head of a elite pole vaulter and hearing and seeing what they think about. What do they think about on the runway? What do they see? What's their training, mental training?
What's their home life? Yeah.
What's their home life?
Yeah.
How do they deal with stress outside? And there's not a lot of that out there, because like what you said, you just see people vaulting, posting their vaults, and I do that too, because it's nice to
Well, and that's what people want to see, right? Like your vault videos get the most feedback, the most comments, the most shares, the most likes. Then I post something about whatever, my husband, and then it was like 5 likes. Like, okay, nobody wants to see them on there.
They do.
That matters, but
they do want to see that. And I think Yeah, that's an interesting one. With the vault videos getting more views, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess I'm just saying this because whenever I was younger, all I wanted to do was know, like, what are these people doing? Like, not even in the sense of I want to know what they're doing so then I can do it. I just was genuinely interested in those people. Like, and I wanted to like see what they sounded like off the runway. Like, what this is gonna sound really stupid, but like what do they look like off the runway? What do they sound like off the runway? Like what do they talk about whenever they're not in like a classic interview format? Like what
Yeah.
are they where are their personalities at? And then what happens is if we do this enough and we get more podcasts, like if you were to do one and we have other people that do them, what happens is you create these characters, like it's like almost like a character in a movie, like that you get to understand the backstory of them, and then you can actually truly be a fan of these people.
Yeah.
Like now some little girl out there is going to listen to this podcast and be like, man, Julia and Bridget's podcast, like I love them, you know, like I love them so much, and I care about them as pole vaulters, but I care about them as people, and I want well, like I wish them well.
Mhm.
And you don't get that if it's only like that guy just did a pole vault. You know, it doesn't hit the same. And so I think that would be awesome. I think you guys definitely should do it. But what you will find is there is a reason why there's not a lot of podcasts out there. It's just tough.
Yeah.
It's just hard. It's what happens is what you guys should do. Like this is me just giving unsolicited advice.
Never
Um,
take it.
Yeah,
what
Yeah.
what you should do is you should just start with just you guys
Yeah.
and like because when you add guests into it, it takes on another layer of difficulty because you got to worry about their technology, like what technology are they dealing with, and do they know how to use Zoom? Do they know, you know, how to use a microphone or how to make the audio sound good? And are you going to be able to schedule at the same time? Like one of the hardest things about some of my podcasts that I've done is that like the one with Steve Hooker, I did at 2 in the morning my time, you know, like because he's in Australia. And it's like, dude, I just got to do it, man. I just got to do it. I got to wake up at 2 in the morning and do this podcast.
Yeah.
And because I knew people wanted to talk to him, and I knew that I wanted to hear what he had to say. So when you add guests, it adds another layer to it. But you know, set like a super modest goal, like, all right, let's just do one a month
Yeah.
and then knock it out. And then next month do another one. And then if you want to bring someone in, or just bring in the people from Virginia Tech, you know, or Bob, or, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
yeah, like any of those people. I think that would be super, super cool. So,
Yeah. I think that's been on our hearts too. Yeah.
yeah.
I think, I mean, I've said this to you too, and I'm sure you feel the same. Like someone asked me like, what's your biggest goal, like outside of, whatever, medaling at the Olympics or making it to the Olympics or whatever, outside of
mhm,
pole vault. And I think, I think we both feel pretty passionate about the importance of inspiring the generation to come, like, or the generation under us. And I think I could be totally wrong, but I think, and people have said this to me a few times, but not everyone is going to come out of college and make a world team. Like, not
mhm,
everyone's going to come out of college and make an Olympic team. Not everyone is going to, whatever, sign a big contract right away or jump 80 right away or whatever. And I think kind of us, really, I feel like we represent like not the average in terms of like average athletic ability, but just like the regular athlete, you know what I mean? Like this slow burn type of thing. And it's okay. Like, it doesn't mean just because you didn't make a world team out of college, or doesn't just because you didn't sign a big contract doesn't mean you're not able to have success. Or even like, I used to think, oh, I have to train with somebody like, I'm just gonna say it, like, I have to train with a Derek Miles or a Brad Walker or whatever, like Toby. I have to train with someone like that. No, you don't. You don't have to. You
No.
know, you can be just as successful or whatever with a college coach or with your, whatever, like someone like your dad or you,
Yeah.
like you don't have to do that. And I think maybe it's just my ignorance, but like when I was first toying with this idea of whether or not I wanted to keep jumping or if I was good enough to keep jumping or if it would work or whatever, I just had no idea, because nobody talked about it. I'm like, how do people do this? Like the barrier to enter into this realm, if you will, was so vague and nobody wanted to say anything about it. And nobody, like, I think the only advice we kept getting was like jump higher. And I'm like, what does that mean? Like, I know higher. I know
Everyone
that,
knows that.
like I know I need to jump higher than 450, but like what else? Like how do you do that? How do you get there? How do you craft a team? Or
Right.
like how do you craft your support system?
environment.
Like like what does a training regimen look like? What does a competition schedule look like? What does finding an agent, how does that work? Like all of that was so vague early on, years ago when I was just leaving college. Like I was just like, I have no idea what to do. Like, and so it was
Right.
just like trial and error, trial and error, trial and error. And then, and we're still learning, but, and I think it's like that for everyone, but it's just such a gray space, I guess, that I think we kind of, I mean, and other girls too, there are several others that do the same, but I think it's important to just kind of like normalize that. Like you don't have to be a star right out of college. You don't have to. I was never NCAA champion. That was one goal that I really wanted, but never got to. But I mean, like it's okay. It's okay. You don't have to have it to be successful later on.
And I think Bridget has been like, out of all the blessings I've had, I mean, I could really I can go on and on about her because she's really dug. I mean, you've been paving your own path. Like what you were saying is like that no one really talks about how to, there's no one right way to become a pro and make a world team,
Right.
But you've been paving the way, you've been kind of the guinea pig. And I'm like here just watching you. I'm in my bubble of college.
Yeah, but she's been paving the way too. She's not giving her
but I get to see
she's
her.
doing all right. Yeah.
While I'm in safe space in college when everything is really given to me, I get to see you and how you use your faith and how you she advocates for herself like no other. Like she, getting into meets and like that's a whole nother thing. Getting into meets and
I mean, this is what you guys are explaining right here is what you're going to do is you're going to take this once this is released and you need to play this section back and you just need to be like, okay, this is our podcast. Like that's what the podcast is. Like straight up. I just thought about this. I like just this concept of how cool would it be to have a podcast with somebody who was, scrapping after college, like trying to put it together and learning and trying to figure this thing out. And then also on that podcast is somebody who is about to enter into that. Like that would be a really cool thing, a really cool dynamic that I've never heard anything like that. So there you go. You guys are on to something. You guys are on to something. Next stop. Next stop 1 million views. Next stop 1 million views.
I think, and I told Bridget that, like with the podcast or whatever we do in the future, if we get one guest or like get one person to listen to us, great. If we get two, even better. But I think for us, like we're in such a valuable, like we're never going to be in this spot in our lives again. Like for us to be at this level, I want to, and every time we have a conversation, I want to record it because it's just so good. There's so much wisdom, and I feel like we barely touched the surface today of like what we've talked about. Yeah. But I swear, every conversation that we have, I'm like, there's somebody that needs to hear this.
Right. And the beautiful thing about podcasts and YouTube, like for me in general, I love those mediums because they are like a bank that is always there. Like Instagram is just different. So Instagram, like it's just when you create content for Instagram, which we do a lot of, um, it's difficult for me because it just is there and then it just goes away. And
Yeah.
it's just like, all right, it was there. And then now we worked really hard and recorded this video and worked hard at it. And then now, like, name me one Rise Pole Vault Instagram video from 2 months ago. It's like, I couldn't, I could name you like the two in the last week,
Yeah.
but the problem is that you swipe it and then it goes and then that's it. Nobody can interact with it. Well,
Yeah.
you can, but it's like hard to find and all that stuff. But with YouTube and podcasting is it's just always there and you can search it and you can it's
Go
like a
back.
bank of information. And there's times that I listen to podcasts 2 and 3 times,
Mm.
and I think that Julia, you're exactly right, is you should record it and you should have that like as a historical, like, okay, we have all this stuff banked up now and all this information, and people will 100% find value in it. And I can just tell you right now that it would be really a good job. And then Julia, you have a background in
These
graphic
are
design
artists.
and stuff. Yeah. Boom. You got it. I got to pay people to do that. So so you got
Learning
it.
technology side of it. But yeah, I started out as like a studio artist drawing portraits and whatever. I
She's
have this
really
like
good. She's
weird
really
creative
good.
side of me that I absolutely am obsessed with, but I'm still trying to figure out what the heck to do with it.
Yeah.
Podcast.
Yeah.
I guess podcast, here we come.
If you ever need a designer, she's a good one. So.
Straight up. I mean, good designers are hard to come by, that's for sure. All right, before we wrap up, I did have one question that I was looking forward to asking you guys about. It's a little bit more of a difficult question. So both of you guys are coming off of years that were really solid years. Like Julia, you won a national championship. That's incredible. Bridget, you made a world team. Like that's really freaking cool. Both of those things are really, really cool. And for you to experience them, it's probably just an amazing feeling. But I have to imagine that it also comes with a certain level of stress at the same time, like where it's like, okay, now I've made it to this spot and now the human instinct is to be like, how do I get back to that spot? And how do I maintain, that? So, Julia, we'll start with you. So how have you been feeling about being NCAA champion and then going into the year after you were NCAA champion?
I've actually been thinking about this a lot. Because I think you can definitely fall into that trap of I have to always be national champion now. Like if I'm not national champion, I'm nothing or whatever, whatever you say in your head. And I mean, at the very beginning when I came back to Tech to start training again, that was kind of in the back of my mind, like, what are people going to think of me? Like, what if I don't win again? Like, am I like nothing? Am I like not a good pole vaulter anymore? But I'm going to be completely honest. I think the back injury kind of humbled me and kind of made me think, you know what? I'm just happy to be jumping. Like, seriously, like to be
Yeah.
jumping, I am the happiest. I am truly myself. And I think that's a reason out of all the reasons why I pole vault, I just love it. And I love the personal journey of just trying to be the best on that day and don't compare yourself to other people. That's a constant thing that I'm always thinking about. Like if someone younger, like Kenna, who's on our team, jumps higher than me, like you can't be comparing yourself to other people. You're on your own journey and you have to understand why you're doing it. And for me, it's, national championships are a plus, but I just love doing it. And I just love seeing myself get better. And I think the back injury, it's really put into perspective that I'm just glad to be vaulting again. And, my eyes, I think for this year and next year, obviously to win a national championship again is like the goal, but it's really not my primary goal anymore. I think that would kind of be a byproduct of my actual goal, which is, to be jumping in the 60s, the 70s, and to be able to keep jumping and get into other meets outside of college. I think I'm kind of looking beyond NCAAs now. And so if I win again, 2 thumbs up. If I don't, like
That's
it's
a
okay,
great attitude. That's a
and
great
that
attitude.
injury, I'm gonna be honest, that injury has kind of got me into that mindset, and I want to hold on to that. But that's the truth, and I think that's healthy for me, and that feels right for me.
That's awesome.
So if I get second at national championships, great. But if I'm jumping for 60 and I get second, that's great.
Right, right.
Yeah.
That
was great.
That's the truth for me.
Yeah. I would say, yeah, kind of like building on that. I think something that's really hard for high achievers or hard workers is that you can't derive your worth from the results in track, right? Like I think that kind of eliminates the pressure going into a new year or whatever. Like kind of what you're saying. If you don't win a national champion, then that's okay. Like whatever. If you've done your best and you've done everything you can and the card, it wasn't in the cards or whatever, then so be it. But I'm not saying by any means be complacent, but I think just knowing that your worth comes out from outside, not from within the sport is so important. And it's so hard and so easy to just, like fall into that and be like, oh, this is, I failed, right? Or whatever. And I think for me that's something that I've been working with our sports psychologist with. He's, like I said earlier, he's just really great. Yeah. He's put in perspective a lot. Like you are not the result of a competition or a medal or whatever. That is something that you produced, but you are not that thing. Like you can't derive your worth from that because like you're saying, if you don't match up to it in the year after, then what, like then you failed or then you're not good enough or whatever. Like,
and another thing too is like a lot of people that don't know who you are, they'll think about, oh, you're the world finalist or you're the national championship. Those are the people that don't know you. That's the thing that they're going to attribute to you. But the people that truly know you, I mean, sure, you're a national champion, you're a world finalist, but you're Bridget, you have a solid heart here for your teammates. Like you're my wife or, whatever relationship you have. Those people that you keep close to you, that's where you should be and not be thinking about the people you don't even know or like hard to know you. You know what I mean?
That's awesome. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. And like how just how much of a struggle is it if you're only as good as your last meet? Like, gosh, dang.
Not at all.
What a terrible life. What a terrible life. It's just like every week, it's just like, all right, every week I'm just a different person. I had a good meet, I'm happy. I had a bad meet, I'm sad. Like, it's just like, gosh, man, that's just gonna be, you'll just fizzle out. You'll just end up fizzling out. And the pole vault will just eat you up and then spit you out, and that'll be
like
that.
Your dad said, the dark side of the pole vault. Like that's
Gotta stay away. Gotta stay away from the dark side, man. It's 100% the truth.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say this is just interesting. Someone once asked my husband, James, like, how do you guys balance, like, I mean, he was once an athlete, right? But in college, but is not anymore. And he has a full-time job and whatever. And I'm still doing this track stuff. And so someone asked us, like, how do we balance that? Or how do we, like, do we talk a lot about track at home or what is that? How do you navigate that? And I thought his answer was really interesting because he was like, honestly, the pole vault is like is the least interesting thing about her. You know what I mean? Like it's just something, it's something that she does. And some people are like, oh, that's rude, and it's not rude though, because he sees me more than just a jumper. Like how many times have you been introduced to somebody and you're like, oh yeah, she's a pole vaulter. I'm like, yeah, but I'm also like a wife and I do stuff and I work at my church. Like I'm not annoyed by it, but they're, like Julia was saying, like to each athlete, I don't care who you are, there are more layers. Yeah. And it's really easy to slap that, oh, she's an athlete, oh, she's pole vaulter, oh, she's world finalist, whatever that title on. And sure, I mean, yeah, you should be recognized for your accomplishments, but I'm a firm believer, and I'll go blue in the face saying it. I just don't think that I don't think all your worth should be canned in that manner. I guess. I don't know.
100%. Well, ladies, but we're almost at 2 hours, which is really crazy. That was a long time,
No.
No, it was, honestly, like I said, when I get on with people, I never know. I never know it, like, because I've never talked with you guys before this. I've talked with you over DMs and texts. Like that's it. That's the extent. And so you just never know what's gonna happen. And I was just blown away, really, to be honest with you, like with just your guys' wisdom, your just the way you carry yourselves, everything. It was just really, really an enjoyable conversation. And I really, really appreciate you guys doing it. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I
we
could
had
say
a
the
lot of
same
fun
thing
doing.
to
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
Like how you yourself and how you. I mean, I just
yeah, for
love
sure.
everything that you're doing too.
Yeah.
So it's a win-win.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. And then reach out if you want help with that podcast. You said
Yeah.
it now. You said it now. Bunch of
It's out in
people
the
are
world
going to
now.
hear it now. So,
Thank you.
now really quick, really quick. Where can people follow you guys if they're interested?
I guess Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah, Instagram is fine.
What's your
My handle is BRIDGI with 4 E's.
Bridget.
EEEE. Yeah.
Bridgie. Gotcha.
4 E's.
And then my Instagram is Jules_Fixsen, and Fixsen is spelled with an S, Fixsen, for those that didn't know.
Awesome. Yeah, that got me a couple times whenever I was
Yeah.
like typing stuff
Okay,
out.
I literally get it all the time. But
Honestly, I would think I would have put FIXEN.
yeah, no, Fixsen.
Awesome. And then last thing, where are you guys opening up your seasons?
We're opening at home.
Opening at home.
Yeah,
January
January 12th, 5:30, Breakfast Fieldhouse.
5:30. You're giving them the time.
Yeah,
right?
it's gonna be streaming if you're not jumping. So
Yeah, and I'm always the one streaming the pole vault too. So
Yeah, let's get a crowd out there.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Well, ladies, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it. And thank you to everybody listening. This is the One More Jump podcast. See you guys later.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That's it. We did it. Awesome.
I have a funny story. So your brother Luke and I took, well, I don't know what visit it was for him, but my first college visit was with your mom and Luke to Kansas State.
No.
Yeah, back in
She has a
2013.
picture of it. You should send it to me.
I pulled it up to show Julia because my family is from Texas. And my dad was like, "Who's the podcast with?" I'm like, "Luke Winder's older brother." And he was like, "From Kansas State?" I'm like, "Yeah, from the visit." He's like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah."
That's hilarious.
I pulled up like from the archives. I don't even look like myself, but your brother doesn't look like himself either.
Oh yeah, I bet he looks
Look
like
at
a
this.
little boy. Look at
Can you see
that.
that?
That's crazy.
Yeah, from Kansas State.
I think that was the only that might have been the only visit he actually took. Yeah, to Kansas State. Yeah. That's hilarious. I gotta tell him about that. That's really, really funny. Yeah. What do you guys got going on the rest of the day?
You're going on an adventure.
I'm going to West Virginia.
Yeah. Yay, negative.
Yeah. I'm going to West Virginia for like a light show with some of the throwers, because there's only, I think it's me and like a couple throwers that are still here at Tech. Everyone else is home. So we're gonna go to this light show that's like an hour away, and then we're gonna do that. But
cool.
we have off today, so no training today. But
yeah,
it's a different week. Yeah, it's a different week this week because
we train heavy again because Christmas is this weekend. So
I know I was writing Luke and Trevor's training, and I was just like, dude, the holidays is really hard to write training for. Just because like it's like, all right, it's on a Monday too. Like Christmas is on a Monday. It made it really difficult, but it is what it is. We'll get it done. And then because they're opening up at Reno, and that's coming up pretty quick. It's like less than a month.
Same weekend as our home game.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. So I will get this all go through, like it goes through a whole bunch of post-production stuff. And then after I get it like sent through all of that stuff, then our like social media people will start to kind of chop it up a little bit, and then we'll let you know whenever it's all out. And then if you don't mind doing combined posts, that's how we normally do like the shorts. That's up to you guys. If you guys want to accept them, we would love it. If not, totally understand.
That'd be great.
But yeah, just look out for those. And then that's pretty much it. You guys did a freaking awesome job. You guys killed it.
Yeah, no, thanks for having us. This was really fun.
Yeah,
This
even
was
just
really
getting to
fun.
talk to you too. I've
Yeah.
been wanting to talk to you, and even Sean Francis and all the coaches, and
Yeah.
consider
Yeah.
you know, like you're one of the greats out there. And I'm
Luke,
Oh
everyone
my
should
gosh.
at Record Fieldhouse. I'm gonna extend the invite. So
yeah.
I'm
You
gonna-
what? What did you say?
I said if Luke ever wants to jump at the field house, I'm gonna
Yeah.
go on a limb and
Well-
just invite y'all because I think it would be cool.
Sandra and Simon are going to be competing there because they're training at Duke now. And Sandra texted me.
When is that? What?
We have 4 home meets, so I'm not.
I don't know when
The first and hold on, the first
That's
and
actually a
third
good
meet
idea.
are heavy. They're a lot of guys, so I don't know. Because they're just gonna be molded into the college A section. But
Right.
he can jump, so I mean he would be good competition.
Sandra and Simon. Well, Simon's on the Duke team, but Sandra said that he was going to come for a couple meets too.
Yeah,
I don't
but
know
our
which
second meet and our 4th meet are smaller sections.
Okay. Yeah, because I think Luke's gonna do Reno, New Mexico. Have you ever jumped on New Mexico's runway?
Yeah.
I love that runway.
Yeah.
So I was like, I think he's gonna do Reno, New Mexico, week off, New Mexico, and just keep on going back to New Mexico. But you guys have a very similar runway, right? Like
Our
it's
runway is fast,
So
and
nice.
bouncy. I like it. I think just as good as New Mexico, honestly.
Yeah.
yeah. That's actually a good point. I'm gonna look into that and see if
Put our
if that's
schedule
there.
online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And let us know if you have any questions too.
Yeah.
No,
I'm just
I would
inviting
love to.
people to our track.
Yeah.
I
Come
think
on.
it would be
I'll
great.
bring a whole bunch of people out there, and I'm sure nobody will mind at your place. I'll just bring like 100 people out.
Yeah. Hey, we're used to it.
And then it goes both ways. If you guys are ever in the Chicagoland area and you want to come through and jump, you guys are open invitation whenever you want. And we will be doing, we're gonna try to do these kind of like content weekends in the future where we fly like elite vaulters in, and we kind of just do like almost like a weekend. Like we would fly them in, we would put them in a hotel, and then they would come to Rise and we would just film a bunch, like they would do like their workout, like with Luke and Trevor, and we would just film a bunch of content, and then we would probably get a podcast.
Awesome. I'm all for that kind of stuff. I think that's so fun.
Yeah. So that's kind of like our 2023 goal was, like on the content side, was just to put out as much as we could, you know, in 2023, and try to like build a little bit of a following. And then 24, I think we're pretty much set on trying to like get more people like into the facility and like just jump and like just film a bunch, you know, just film a bunch, because then you guys would like, these elite vaulters would have like high quality stuff that they could, you know, advertise with too, because, you know, believe it or not, you guys are a brand. Like it's the Bridget brand and the Julia brand, like, you know, after you're done with
I'm a
college.
marketing student, and it's all about the
Yeah.
marketing and your name. I mean, it's, you know, we talk about this all the time. We are our own brands, you know, and collaborating with other brands not only helps us, but it helps you too. So it's like,
absolutely 100%. Yeah. And if one of those videos goes, then you can, you know, they could really help you out. So, and it would be fun.
Exactly.
We forgot about that.
The marketing side, it's fun.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe we'll try to set something like that up in the future.
I'm totally
Sound good?
Yep.
All
That'd be great.
Sweet. All right, ladies. Well, have a great rest of your day, and reach out if you ever need anything. All right.
Yeah, you too.
All right. See you guys.
Yeah.
Bye.